voted against it, wanting to remain in the EU. In
Hello? Can you hear me? If you can hear me, just you can type a message that says you can hear me. Can you hear me now? So I will be waiting.
Hey, brother, good evening, good afternoon. I know in Ghana, it must be like 3 o'clock right now.
Yes, it's about 3 o'clock in Ghana.
And the network is as clear as the sky is blue.
Oh, fantastic. See, I'm in my space right now. So I'm not in the client's office. So I have a proper network now. So I got
Oh, great.
yeah, good.
Okay. So are you at your office today or still at the client's office, but
No,
better network?
I'm at my office.
Oh, that's great, man. And it's a beautiful office. It's truly looking fantastic.
Thank you. It's been a
Can
long time.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, amazing, amazing. Yeah, thank you very much. And I pray that today will run as smoothly as we can be. And again, thank you very much for accepting all the inconveniences that have happened over the last few days.
My pleasure. It's my pleasure. Come on, these things do happen. But how are you feeling better today?
Oh, fantastic! I'm feeling really good. Dar es Salaam is always a little hot. How is Ghana? What's the weather like in Ghana?
Temperature usually about 28, 27 degrees, maximum 29 degrees at this time.
I see. I see.
So it's not too crazy.
Okay. Right.
But the temperature in Dar es Salaam and Arusha in this time is completely different, right?
Absolutely.
Arusha is cold, just like Nairobi.
Very cold. Very cold.
But Dar es Salaam, I don't know why Dar es Salaam cannot be as cold as Arusha. I just kidding, because I remember those times in Dar es Salaam around this period when I was in Tanzania.
Yes.
When you go to Arusha, you go to Mbeya. It is really cold at this time.
Absolutely very true. Mbeya is as cold as Nairobi, or even colder.
Yes.
Even colder. Oh. Yeah. And how is the population of Accra? Is it like as densely populated as some parts of Nigeria or Dar es Salaam?
No, not as Nigeria, but maybe something around Dar es Salaam. It's about, Accra is about 4.5 million people, about 5 million people.
Oh, interesting. That's close to Dar es Salaam. I think we are running the same numbers for that.
Cool. So Accra has about 4.5 million people here in the country. Yeah.
And people speak English there, right? Of course.
Yes, they speak English. They speak English, but they have three or four national languages.
Okay.
You have Twi, you have Ga, you have Ewe, and then you have Hausa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I wish to get there someday. I've never been to Ghana. I've been to Nigeria a couple times.
Oh, okay, interesting. You've never been to Ghana. It's just we used to call them the junior neighbor of Nigeria, but they don't want to hear the word junior,
Very interesting indeed. And why do you call them junior? You think they're younger than you guys? Or it's a smaller country?
Just in terms of population, in terms of advancement, and in terms of just pace. The pace of life in Nigeria is much faster. The size of businesses in Nigeria are much more bigger. And the population is huge. Nigeria has over 205 million people. And then that's like almost seven times the size of Ghana. So
I see the point. They're surely your junior brothers.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. So how often do you go to America from there? Like every couple of months, or how long?
Every 2 months.
Often?
Every 2 months. Yeah, every 2 months,
Okay.
1.5 months maximum.
My goodness. Just a quick moment. I need to do some real thing here, some quick thing here.
Okay.
It's all good. Thanks, hey, gosh. Okay. Here we are. Sorry, I was receiving something at the door.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay. Good. So this is 6 o'clock our time, which is Ghanaian 3:02, I suppose, something like that.
3 o'clock in Ghana.
3 o'clock. Okay. Wow, that's incredibly amazing. So I wonder whether we should get started. There will be a lot more people on Facebook because this is linked to Facebook right away.
Okay.
So exactly. Let me find out because I don't have access to, oh, I do have access to Facebook via the phone. So let me see.
Okay. That's the beauty of technology, right?
Yeah, and you are the one who gave us this idea, that from Zoom, we can actually go to Facebook.
Right. Yes.
Hi, Pendo, can you hear me? I know you can, but can you talk back to me?
Yeah, she says that her microphone is faulty or something.
She did. So let me just give her a quick call just to find out if everything is okay on Facebook, then we can hit the ground running.
Fantastic.
Yes, are we good to go on Facebook? We are live on Facebook, right? So we can get started. And I'm sure you told everybody that they could join in via link to Zoom as well. Okay, fine. Okay, so let's get started. Thanks. That's great. So I'll put this on mute here and make sure that all is great. All right. So, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin. But I'm going to begin by sharing a comment that I heard from someone because you said that your Ghanaian younger brothers, of course, are slower and all of that, but I need to do a proper introduction before I do that.
No, I wouldn't get into the Nigerian Ghanaian conversation. I think so that I don't get into trouble. I think we just focus on what's
off the record.
The conversation on leadership and COVID.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. I already mentioned in the caption, of course, about who you are and what you do. But for those of us on Facebook, and if you're tuning in for the very first time, this was supposed to happen on Wednesday night, but for some reason we could not due to some, unavoidable circumstances. But we thank God we are now able to air live. I am speaking from Dar es Salaam. My name is James Mwang'amba, leadership consultant, business coach, and international public speaker. Author of a couple of books right now, and I'm the host of this Wednesday Wisdom program, but it happens on Friday, just for tonight only. So with me tonight is Femi Bagnibe. Femi is an international businessman who does his businesses between West Africa and the USA. He is also a technology business leader, or leadership expert for that matter. Somebody who has spent a lot of years working around technology. He was here in Tanzania about 15 years ago or so. 10 years ago?
Not that long.
Or 7. I think
it's about 13 years ago. I came in 13
about 13 years ago. He was here, and when he was here, he was running leadership and lifestyle conferences. And today he's an inspirational speaker and a national builder. And I really would like to start by asking, of course, what has happened between when he was here and when he's, in the current moment. But let's start specifically with national building. What exactly do you mean by national building, Brother Femi?
Well, it's so good to reconnect with you guys again in Tanzania. I say to people that Tanzania is my second home. I fell in love with Tanzania when I first came in there in late 2007, beginning 2008. The 3 years that I spent in Tanzania was completely life-changing for me. It's a country that if since I left in 2011, I didn't really come back until 2018, which is like 7 years after. I came back just for a few days, and then I'm really looking forward to coming back to Tanzania. So I was going to come back this year actually, but COVID did happen. So
Yeah.
after COVID is over, I am looking forward to coming to spend at least 1 week in Tanzania. And then, of course, I'm trying to get some businesses done in Tanzania as well. So hopefully
Right.
that when I do eventually set up the businesses in Tanzania, it means that I will be in a position to be in Tanzania once every quarter. And that I'm really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to that because my Swahili is still kidogo kidogo, a little bit. So I still remember the habari yako, mambo, and all the lala, kulala, VP, and all this stuff like that. But I really fell in love with the people of Tanzania and the language, and I still have all the uh, vivid picture of the places where I stayed, the things we did in Tanzania, the relationship that we built, the relationship that extended to people like you. And then I say that I hold those relationships very dear to me because I believe that it's one country that I would say I invested a lot of my time in people development and nation building in Tanzania, because one of the things we did apart from the leadership and lifestyle forum is the Heroes movement. We actually did something for Zero to Hero at the time, which is really targeting younger people. And the whole idea behind younger people, especially the university students, is really to be able to get them to start thinking about contribution. Because life is not measured by the things that you have. Life is measured by your contribution. Nobody is going to remember you for how much money that you were able to earn in your lifetime. Yes, they can talk about the numbers, but people will remember you for how much contribution you made in the life of others. Now, when we talk about making contribution into the life of others, you cannot give what you don't have. That means for you to be able to effectively contribute to other people, you will have to build up yourself first. So personal development is key to nation building. I would like I say to people that when you talk about success, you have to talk about personal success, which must evolve into communal success, meaning that success within your community, and it must translate into national success. Every nation is made up of units of families. Families evolve to become communities, and then communities become regions, and regions become states or nations, as the case may be. So when we talk about nation building, we are talking the most fundamental part of nation building is human capital development. How do you influence a certain individual to become better than who he is right now? How do you influence a certain individual to become much more improved version of himself? One of the commitment I made to myself when I was a very young boy is to tell myself that I will never leave anyone or any place worse than I met it. I have to make sure that I leave anyone or any place I find myself better than I met it. There must be certain legacy that can be traced to your existence. Certain legacy. I mean, for those who are quite religious, or those who follow Christianity or even Islam or the Bible. Now, in Christianity, we have a scripture that says that a little one of you will become 1,000. Now, so I take that to mean that when you're talking about impact as a person in your lifetime, whether it is 30 years that you live, if you live for 40, if you live for 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years, you should aim that your level of impact in terms of the people that you will ever impact in your lifetime should be at the minimum 1,000 people.
Wow.
Because that is what you have the capability to do. You
Right.
are you are built up to be able to impact at the minimum 1,000 people. So when you in your lifetime are able to impact one person who impacts one person who impacts one person who impacts one person, in your lineage of impact, you will be talking about at least 10 people. If each one of those 10 people impact another 10 people, you will have impacted altogether 100 people. If each one of those 100 impact 10 people in their lifetime, you will have impacted at least 1,000 people. So the basis of nation building is changing one person, making that one person better than you met the person, making that one person a much more improved version of himself, because everybody has potential and everybody has potential to become somebody and has potential to become better than they are. So this is the whole basis of nation building. You must always understand that people can be better than what they currently are and who they currently are.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. What an eye-opening explanation on how you have tied up, on how you have linked up personal development, how it translates into communal success, and then from community, how it translates into regional, then regional to nation. So, Obafemi, my brother, I just want to ask this question as we get started. What if you are trying to work in the midst of people who do not have a culture, who totally don't have a culture of personal development or rather success? I see that around Africa, and more especially in here, people have all kinds of beliefs as far as success is concerned. Some believe in luck, some believe in being at the right time, at the right place. Some believe in inheritance. Some believe, unfortunately, in theft, or rather in taking advantage of other people. Some believe in witchcraft. There are all kinds of beliefs that people have as far as success is concerned. And when you are surrounded with so many people who do not believe in the whole idea of personal development, what's your advice to all the people who are always trying to get better, then trying to change those around them, but they end up being discouraged instead of being encouraged or being supported, or instead of winning souls, if you will, to this line of thinking?
Well, how do I start? There is, I'm Nigerian, like you know, and in my in my language or in my culture, they used to say, like a proverb that says, you can only carry a child who has stretched forth his or her hand to be carried. You can't force yourself to carry a child that does not want to be carried.
Right.
Some people will say that you can only take a horse to the river. You can't force that horse to drink water.
I agree.
So people must have a desire to want to change.
Right.
Those are the only people you can help. Now, there are those who will not necessarily have a desire to change, or a desire to improve themselves, or desire to become better, but by observing you over time, they get, in quote, motivated to say, if this person can do it, then I can do it as well. Now, so there is a direct level of influence, and there is an indirect level of influence. Direct is when the person is willing to change or willing to improve himself, and then you then support the person in that journey of growth, in that journey of progress, right? Then you will say that you have directly impacted the person. Now, when you have not directly impacted the person is when the person is observing you to see whether you are actually going to make progress. One of the biggest problems I've seen is that a lot of people are afraid of leaving their comfort zone. A lot of people are afraid of failing. A lot of people are afraid And the question people usually ask when you tell them to do something new or you tell them to attempt something new is that, what if it fails? What if I don't succeed? That is the fear that a lot of people have. What if I don't succeed? What if I fail? For example, we know that there's a lot of problems in Africa, in most of the nations in Africa. A lot of people are afraid to do something to change the status quo because they are afraid that they may not succeed. Then the question is, what if you succeed? So if somebody says, oh, but what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? Then the question that you should throw back to that person is, what if it works? Because it's a 50-50 chance. You will never know whether it's working or it is not working until you try. So I say to people that you will never find out really what you can do until you try. You have to be willing to give it a try. Whether it is going to work or whether it's going to fail, you will never know until you try. It's like a guy that is trying to get married and he's telling himself, oh, all the ladies don't like me. When I ask a lady out, they always tell me no. And because of that, he convinces himself to say that, oh, I will never find a girl because every time I ask a girl out or a lady out, the person gives me a no, as the case may be. Then because of that, you never try. So the reality is that if you if you force yourself to accept that as your reality, it means that you will never open your mouth to ask a girl out. Meanwhile, you never know that the person that you're afraid of, and for most of the guys who are not able to express themselves, sorry, I'm speaking directly to singles now, because I know that men find it very difficult to express themselves. And meanwhile, some of the ladies are actually waiting for you to say something. Because ladies are asking you, expecting, say something. Then when you say, oh, but you should have seen it from my action. No, the ladies wants to be sure of your intention and you have to say something. If you don't say something, the lady will be like, sorry, I don't think the guy really likes me because he hasn't said it. So my point is that you will never know what you can get until you ask. Ask and it will be given to you. So you will never know what you can do until you make an attempt. Yet there is a chance that when you do make an attempt, you can fail. That is a given. But you will never find out until you actually make that step. So which is the reality that people usually are confronted with. Now, leaders themselves, those who are attempting to lead, one of the biggest challenges to leadership is getting people to change. Human beings don't want to change because we just are comfortable in our current situation. We are comfortable with the status quo. We are comfortable in our comfort zone. Even the laws of physics tells us that a body remains in a state of rest or in a uniform motion until it is acted upon by force. Because people usually will not change or change something until it is broken. Now, the biggest challenges of leadership is how do you lead people to change? How do you, because whether you like it or not, there are certain changes that will be forced upon us, and there are certain changes that we don't have to wait till it is forced on us before we change. For example, if you look at in the early days of mobile phones, there is this mobile phone producer called Nokia. Nokia was the biggest name in the mobile handset manufacturing back in the days. In fact, when I first came into Tanzania, Nokia was quite big. Nokia was really big. Now, Nokia didn't make that transition into making smartphones earlier compared to the rest of the manufacturers. Now, Nokia, a few years ago, when Nokia was now going to be sold to Microsoft, the CEO of Nokia made a statement, which was a very famous statement. In fact, if you go into the internet and talk about Nokia CEO statement, it's a very famous statement. He said something. He said, "We did not do anything wrong, and yet we still lost." It was a very emotional speech. He said, oh, we didn't do anything wrong and yet we lost. And then it was very shocking because you may not have done anything wrong, but the mere fact that you did not do certain things right, you can still lose. So not making a change or not making a decision is a decision on its own. Not taking a stand is a stand on its own. Do nothing is a strategy on its own. Because in business school, we were taught that in strategy classes, you can decide to do something about a competitor move or a competitor action, or you could decide to do nothing. So when you take a decision to do nothing, it is still a strategic choice that you have made. So people who think that we don't want to change or we don't want to do anything, we just want to leave things the way it is, needs to understand that that in itself is a strategic choice that you've made, which will eventually lead you somewhere. So it is either you make that change or the changes are made for you. Recently, the world has been suffering from COVID-19, right?
Right.
Now, you and I will not probably contemplate on having this conversation or this kind of session on Zoom into Facebook or into YouTube 1 year ago, 6 months ago. You probably will be thinking, Femi, when next are you coming to Dar es Salaam so that we can have this session, right? Now, this whole COVID-19 and social distancing has forced everybody to start looking at alternative ways of holding meetings, alternative and cheaper ways of doing certain things. Now, a lot of the banks that did not want to digitize, a lot of the offices that did not want to digitize, everybody is now being forced to digitize. A lot of the schools that is not, in fact, they don't even have a computer lab, are now thinking, how am I going to deliver education via online, Zoom, via Google Classroom, via Skype, or any whatever online tool that you have. So you can see that a lot of the time when you don't prepare for certain changes, social economic changes, it will eventually catch up with you. And then when it catches up with you, you would not have the chance or the time to prepare to sort of take advantage of that change. So for anyone who is discouraged that, okay, maybe I'm trying to avoid, what if I don't succeed, you give up. Reality is that if you don't do something about the situation that is confronting you in the face, and you think that, okay, I'm just going to throw away the towel, it will eventually catch up with you. But by the time it catches up with you, it might be too late to actually readjust. Airbnb CEO last week made a statement and said, oh, it took us 12 years to build a business and we lost it in 6 weeks.
Airbnb,
yes. Airbnb, yes. This is this shared accommodation.
right?
And so it took them 12 years to build a business and they lost it all. They almost lost it all in 6 weeks because nobody was traveling. Uber recently, as their earnings, when they published their earnings this week, their revenues this week, I think it dropped about 29%. And they're now thinking of laying off staff. There are companies that completely folded up. Many are folding up. Airlines are actually struggling. So you find out that this whole COVID thing, a lot of us did not prepare for it, including myself. Because nobody, when we woke up to January 1st, 2020, nobody in their dreams ever imagined that the world is going to get into this phase. Not even America imagined that that was going to happen. So
Right.
change will always either be forced on you,
right,
or you can start to make certain, the companies that actually did not get impacted by this whole COVID-19, that actually benefited more, are companies that have taken advantage of digital. As a matter of fact, we were told that almost all the big tech companies, technology companies in the US, increased their wealth during this COVID. Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, Netflix, Zoom. Every one of these guys actually became richer during COVID, while the other industries are getting poorer, and some of them have actually gone extinct. So you will not succeed when you have not prepared for the eventualities, these things that are going to happen. Certain things will happen anyway. Whether you want to be the agent that made it happen, or you want to be a recipient of the action. You can either make something happen or be on the receiving end of what is happening effectively.
I really have been impacted by the statement that was made by the Nokia CEO when he said, you know, we did not do anything wrong, but we lost. I think he was in tears. I remember,
yes,
you know, when how this thing came out. So that really should be sort of a wake-up call to all of us. I remember the words of Jack Welch, who was at one time the CEO of General Electric. I think
yes,
he was reputed by saying that change before you have to, you know, change
yes,
before you have to. In other words,
yes,
it's better to change before you are forced to change.
before you are forced to change, yes.
So Femi, let me ask this. So when you were in Tanzania back then, you were running leadership and lifestyle conferences, and
yes,
I was one of the lucky people to attend. And then I got to understand the Zero to Hero movement, and you actually gave me an invitation to one of the programs at the Diamond Jubilee. I don't know if you remember that. You know,
yes,
way back
that's
then.
2011.
Yeah. So how did you get the courage to begin all these initiatives in a country, in my view, or at a time when there were so few people that would actually read a book like Think and Grow Rich? Like the entire idea of personal development was so rare and uniquely different at the time. How did you, have the courage to be able to launch that? And out of your busy schedule, I know you were working as a chief technical officer for Mobitel at the time. How did you find time to be able, it was Tigo already, sorry, it was Tigo already. So how did you manage to get the time and the commitment and the resources to be able to do that? And what are you telling somebody who also wants to initiate change or do some campaigns or do something similar in order to change his or her world?
Oh, thank you. And that really brings about a very good memory. Let me tell you the story of how it all happened. I was not planning to come to Tanzania. In fact, when I started my career in the telecom industry, Tanzania was the last country on my mind to ever want to come to. Tanzania, as a matter of fact, as at the time when in the early 2000s, when of course I started my career in 99 was when I started my professional career in the year 1999, and then I got into the telecom industry in the year 2000. And when I started doing international travel to work internationally, Tanzania was not even on the radar of the companies that I was working for. Kenya was mostly on the radar. Kenya was on the radar of some of those countries. Uganda was on the radar of some of those countries. But Tanzania was really never on the radar for many of the countries. So Tanzania was not a country that we are all familiar with. In fact, when I told some of my friends, when I eventually took up the desire to take up the job as a chief technical officer for Tigo, so when I told some of my friends in Nigeria that I was going to Tanzania, they said, well, like, Tanza what? What did you call it? So he was like, what are you talking about? Where is that exactly? Because a lot of people were not so familiar with Tanzania. Tanzania was just opening up to the world at the time. The president you had at the time was Jakaya Kikwete. That he was doing a lot of more PR job to get Tanzania back into reckoning. So you guys have had very successful, good leaders after then. And so the reality is that Tanzania was not on the radar at all. So when I had to come to Tanzania, which was a career choice that I took, I had to start asking myself, it cannot just be because of telecom that I'm coming to Tanzania. There has to be other reasons, because if it is telecom, there are other places to go pick up a job. I could pick up a job in Kenya, I could pick up a job in South Africa. In fact, that will even be much more desirable for me in terms of prestige, and because the Tanzania telecom industry at the time was very, very poor. The penetration was low, the networks were not that good. Tigo at the time, we were very small as a company. We had very small market share. We had a very
Hello.
so
Okay,
I think somebody was. So we had a very small market share at the time. We had a very few number of sites, mostly in Dar es Salaam. We had a very poor network in 2008 at the time. Not so many people were using Tigo. Everybody was using Vodacom and Celtel at the time. Nobody was even talking about Tigo. Tigo was more for the student, for the poor people, as the case may be. So I knew that it was, yes, when I come into Tigo, it was during my time that Tigo actually expanded massively in Tanzania. We grew from being a very small operator to becoming a very major operator in 3 years. You know, remember when we introduced Longa Longa, right? Longa Longa Wa, Longa Longa 2, you know, that kind of thing. And then you have the Voice, this particular advert from the Voice. You know, it was really quite creative stuff that we did at Tigo. But coming to Tanzania for me was not just because of telecom. So I started praying to say, God, what exactly am I coming to do in Tanzania? Because it cannot just be because of telecom. So when I started to research about Tanzania, about the history of the country, about the fact that the country was just opening up at that time, I looked at the environment that I'm coming from, which is Nigeria. There's a lot of focus on people development, human development, leadership. There's a lot of movement that involve young people from the university, causing them to start to think more of nation building. I was impacted by such movement when I was in university in Nigeria. So when I was coming to Tanzania, it was a mindset of, okay, if during my own lifetime as a young boy university student, I got impacted by this type of initiatives, this type of program, then I should consider my coming to Tanzania, which I know is probably going to be not more than 3-4 years. I have to look at it as an opportunity to give something back to that community. You know, I told you earlier on that when I turned 17 or when I turned 18 in life, one of the things I told myself is that I will never leave any place or any country the same way I met it. So when I was coming to Tanzania, I had one purpose in mind, and that is I must give something to this community. I must not just pass through this community as a professional who will just earn an expatriate income and then leave the country and then everybody forgets about me. I have to leave a legacy. So when I got into Tanzania, I was asking, where do we have forums that we can meet like-minded people with? And I realized that not so many of those forums were going on. Some guys were already doing something similar, by the way, but they were not doing it on a regular basis, and they were not galvanizing a lot of people. So of course, I give a lot of credit to Costa, my friend Costa Magavila, Sebastian Ndege, Paul Mashauri, Nehemiah Chechu, and you have the likes of Charles Washoma, and those are very great guys that are fantastic guys that I met. Of course, I met Modesta, Abella, and of course I came across some of these youth movements. One of them is a Pastor Isaac. And Isaac, they were having so there were a couple of people who were doing stuff at the time. And what I wanted to do was not to somehow replicate or do, well, I didn't want to just come and just build something out of the castle. So I reached out to all these people that I heard of. I said, guys, listen, this is what I'm thinking of doing. How can we work together to make it happen? And then everybody was like, okay, why do you want to do it? You're a Nigerian. Come on. You want to go and come spend your money? Make people come and attend for free? So then I said to them, I said, listen, we're going to make this happen. I didn't know anybody in Tanzania. I came in, I was like, I only knew guys in Tigo. So I got together 3 of my Tigo friends. I said, listen, I want to do a forum, a leadership and lifestyle forum. And I'm going to rent an hotel, Serena Hotel at the time. I'm going to print flyers, I'm going to print handbills, and we're going to do this because I believe that we should create a forum where young professionals or young leaders of organizations can come together, can rub minds, we can sort of create something that can impact the next generation of young professionals, young leaders, as the case may be. And they were like, really, why do you want to do that? Who's going to pay for it? I said, don't worry, I'm going to pay for it. They said, you want to pay for it? Oh, really? I said, yes. So they said, is it going to be free? I said, yes, it's going to be free. They're like, you must be crazy. I said, yes, I'm crazy. So I got 5 of them to send the flyer to 10 people on their mailing list, because there was no WhatsApp at the time. There was no BlackBerry at the time. They were just quite new innovations at that time. So I said, okay, send it to 10 people on your email address and tell them to send it to 5 people on their email address. And then that's how we did it. So all that was done. I went to rent an hotel, and the first time, and that was what really gave me a lot of hope. The first meeting of leadership and lifestyle in Serena Hotel, we had 170 people turn up because everybody wanted to find out who is this crazy Nigerian guy who wants to do a seminar, rent an hotel, provide refreshment, and is not charging them any money, because they were like, you must be crazy. So I think the motivation at the time was I wanted to give back to people. I wanted to impact knowledge. I wanted to ensure that when I leave Tanzania, I'm not just going to leave as an expatriate, that I achieved a lot for my company. I mean, I thank God for giving me the opportunity to work for Tigo. We did a lot of things that in Tigo that is still existing up till now. We created the first fiber optics consortium that is still existing up till now. A lot of the digital revolution that Tanzania is experiencing now is because we were able to work with the government to create a fiber optics consortium among all operators that reduced the cost of laying infrastructure, and that eventually led to the digital revolution we're experiencing in Tanzania today. But that shouldn't only be my story. There should be the story of people. You can imagine 10 and 11 years after, I'm coming onto your show to talk right now. So that was how it started. So leadership and lifestyle moved from every once in a month. We started doing once every month, and then we moved to other hotels. And in the course of doing leadership and lifestyle, I came across some of the students that came in for those leadership and lifestyle meetings. And I asked them, I said, listen, how can we take this also to the university? And that was how Zero to Hero started. So I selected just 2 of them. I said, invite 2 of your friends that also are like you. So I brought together a team of 9 young people who were still in the university at the time. And we said, listen, we're going to do this. We're going to have this concert thing because I know young people love concerts. And then we're going to make this concert as a platform for nation building. So we had a mission statement for Heroes Movement at the time, which is how to it's from zero to hero. So how you can succeed, right, and influence your community regardless of your background. So that was the whole idea. So it was supposed to be a grassroots movement that is telling young people to say, you don't have to come from a rich home. You don't have to come from a very strong political family. You can be a success and impact your world, impacting your community, becoming a great leader, regardless of your background, whether from you're a farmer, you're a pauper, you are whoever you are. And that really caught a lot of fire because a lot of the young people felt, oh, wow. So we had our first Ubungo conference. That was in 2009. And then we had like 2,000 young people showed up. It was like crazy. In fact, at a point, some people thought, who is this Nigerian guy that is doing all this conference for free? Is he being sponsored by some external powers that wanted to take over, that wanted to have a political movement? Because we normally start, even though it was a Christian concert, we would start with the national anthem of Tanzania. And then it was really quite an experience because when I think about it right now, I see a lot of young people that have passed through those seminars. Some of them, something gets impacted into their art. Now, I believe in the principle that sometimes you will plant a seed, some other people will water it. Now, some of those seeds that have been planted across thousands of young people we gathered almost 1,000 people across those places that we went to in Tanzania. So you can imagine 10,000 people have had this whole story of you can succeed and impact the community regardless of your background. And then a few years after, other people like you, God has raised other people like you to continue in that same line. So it's a collective responsibility. I plant a seed, other people like Magavila water the seed, Mashari water the seed, Munchechi water the seed, Faraja, Yalandu water the seed, Modesta water the seed, Charles Washima water the seed. And at the end of the day, what's going to happen is that a whole lot of young people who have caught on to this idea that, listen, I can be a person of influence and I can impact my community. So the motivation is usually, how do you build a nation, starting with one person at a time?
Wow. Wow. Very, very inspiring.
It is not about what you're going to earn from it. It is about the lives that you're going to change for it.
One person at a time.
One person.
So if somebody was here and they were wondering, well, I don't have a platform, I don't have a lot of followers on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, then this is what they need to hear. It is one person at a time, isn't it? It's one person.
One person at a time. That's the way it works.
Okay. That's amazing. So let's shift gears a little bit, Mr. Bagnibe. You are a technology leadership expert, so to speak. You've been involved in technology for quite a long time.
Yes.
And right now there are people who tuned in because, well, I've been talking so much about that our speaker tonight is somebody who has been engaged and involved for a long time in technological, circles or spaces. How do you think people need to prepare technologically or IT-wise, if you will, but let's keep it technologically, to enter the next economy or the post-COVID economy? Because I know we have people who think that, like I used to think, like I'm not a tech guy. I remember when I was in secondary schools, throughout my secondary school education, I used to hate mathematics.
Okay.
But I started them as a matter of principle because I had no choice. So sometimes it feels almost the same way with technology, that I have to do it because I have no choice. So what words of encouragement do you have for people who are pretty much like me, not considering ourselves as tech guys or tech ladies or tech girls, but we know for sure that we cannot avoid technology going forward?
Okay, I love talking about technology because that is my passion and that is where I have my profession. But I want to sort of simplify it to anybody hearing me today, that technology itself is an enabler. You don't necessarily have to be a scientist or an engineer or a technology expert to use technology. For example, you know how to drive a car right now.
Yeah.
But do you understand how the engines of the car creates a movement so that when you start the engine and you press the accelerator, it moves and all that? You don't have to know that. You just simply need to know how to drive the car.
100% right.
Now, a lot of people don't know how the mobile phone works because a lot of people probably lived in the time when there was just landline, TTCL landline in your house or in your office, because most of the houses do not even have TTCL line at the time. It's only mostly offices or big people. Now, people are using mobile phone today and even typing in Swahili, doing all the short codes in Swahili, but they don't understand how the mobile works, but they're just using it, right? So I think that when people hear of digital or technology, they get scared to say, oh, how am I going to be able to understand this? I didn't do science in school. I didn't do this in school. And they feel unnecessarily disempowered because they feel that this is too complicated. I will say to them, don't worry about the underlying technology of how it works. Just learn how to use it.
That's a big point.
I don't have to learn how the computer works. I just need to be able to know how to type a language, type a document on my Microsoft Word,
Right.
or go onto a website and get it to YouTube. So majority of the technology that a lot of people will ever come across in their lifetime will be television and a mobile phone. Some people may never own a laptop, but they will own a smartphone. Right. A smartphone we call it a smartphone because it has a lot of more intelligent application, and it's not just for voicing a voice call and a text phone and sending SMS. So it is a smartphone because it can run other intelligent application that can simplify our life. Right? So in the world today, before I focus too much on technology, COVID-19 will create massive changes in the way we live. Number one, you will see that a lot of our interpersonal relationship will be substituted with digital conversations like this.
Yeah.
Instead of people traveling down to come and have some time with James or sit down with a coaching section with James, invite James to come and train their staff, they just simply need to book a Zoom session or a Skype session for James to speak to their staff.
That's exactly what's happening. I do a lot of coaching via Zoom. I mean, people just sitting at the comfort of their homes and everything happens. Exactly.
So interpersonal relationship will be substituted with more digital engagement. That is a fundamental thing that has changed and which would not reverse even when COVID is over. Number two, more people will work remotely from the comfort of their homes than those who will go to the office environment. As a matter of fact, there are some companies in the US that have said to their staff that office would not be open till 2021, 1 year after. In fact, there are some companies that have just said that companies, there are companies that have just said now that their staff should not even think about coming back to the office ever again. Facebook, Twitter, Slack, Shopify, Zillow, all their staff will not come to the office till further notice. They will all work from home. So you see that a lot of people will work more from home. Google gave their employees $1,000 each to improve the furniture and the electronic infrastructure in their home so that they can work from the house. Now, so a lot of people will work more from home than they are going to work in the office. So that is the reality. So the question is, how are you going to be able to coordinate a team of people working from home without you seeing them physically? So that tells me that you now have to start thinking, what are the things we do in the office on a day-by-day basis that requires people to come to the office? And start asking yourself, can we do some of those things using our mobile phone? Or can we do it using our computers? This is where innovation comes in. Because suddenly you realize that if you are the type that likes to meet with all your staff and behave like a king, because you are the big boss, you want them to sit down and listen to you, and you threaten them, and you threaten them, and you threaten their life, and you scream and bang the table. If that is your leadership style, and now you have to do that same staff meeting over Zoom, you can bang the table all you care. All the person needs to do is put you on mute. you can, once you start to scream, they just reduce the volume, go offline, turn off the video, and be drinking coffee. So when you finish screaming, then you can, you will. And if you're the type that likes to show your bosses that you are working, and because of that, you want to show them you are working, so you want to show them so they can see you physically, in the office, all that gimmicks to get promotion is now going to be over because now you're working remotely, right?
That's
Now,
right.
number 3, smaller startups, smaller digital startups will start to take market share from big traditional establishments. So you will see that a lot of people will do a lot of their banking on Tigo Pesa, on M-Pesa, and will not even visit the bank
Right.
anymore. So suddenly, M-Pesa and Tigo Pesa becomes your bank, which is already happening in Dar es Salaam today, or in Tanzania today.
Yes.
A lot of banks are losing their customers to M-Pesa. M-Pesa is actually offering some loans now, micro loan. Tigo Pesa is offering micro loan. Now you can pay.
May I connect the, my laptop is about to go off.
Okay, so I just continue talking.
Okay, just continue talking. I don't want to disconnect you. Okay, right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Keep on, sir.
So as I was saying,
I got you
payment.
back. Right.
So if you are worrying about, if you are a business person and you're like, oh, how am I going to take advantage of digital? The question is, do you have Tigo Pesa or M-Pesa? If the answer is yes, that means customers, instead of coming to your shop to pay, should be able to pay you using Tigo Pesa.
Okay.
So are you comfortable receiving money via Tigo Pesa? If your answer is yes, then you have digitized your process of receiving payment from your customer.
Okay.
Right? So it's as simple.
Right.
So if you are the type that wants to go and knock the doors and do marketing and do a marketing rally, now you can then buy advertising space on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, and create a flyer with a graphic designer, and then targets people in your community to tell them about your product. You can now open a shop up on Facebook. So the question is, how do you deliver the goods? If somebody buys a shoe from you on your online shop, how do you deliver it? Now you have delivery people who are delivering using bikes. Maybe someday Daladala will be delivering goods into people's house. I'm just kidding. No, you never trusted Daladala to do. You was never trusted Daladala. Daladala to do that. It's like trusting a matatu to do it in Nairobi. That you will be. But my point is that there will be people will naturally adapt, and one thing that we can never run away from is the use of your computer and your mobile phone to do your transaction, your day-to-day transaction will increase after this period.
That's right.
Yes. So people shouldn't worry about knowing the nitty-gritty of how the software is coded or how the application is programmed. It is a question of what tools, what electronic tools can I use now to do the things that I used to do physically with other people. Now I am forced to do it remotely.
Right.
So this is where technology comes in.
Wow, amazing information. Thanks a lot for enriching us in ways that we could never even imagine. Thanks. I'm getting opened up, in every which way that I could imagine. So I know I should ask this question during the online leadership conference that has to start tomorrow night. Yes. Via Zoom, as we have been promoting. But I think maybe you can give the listeners here a taste of how does one, let's say, emerge? How does the leader emerge from a crisis of some sort and begins to galvanize or mobilize his team so that he could build new momentum and, inspire people to continue to operate like the way they were, or even beyond what they were producing before. Okay, to clarify my question here, to sort of qualify so that it's more easily understandable, we are looking for a leader here who has been bettered by technology. Maybe they've lost market shares, or they cannot sell as much as they could, or maybe they cannot come up with salaries to pay because business is down, and their organizations or companies are basically in sort of a crisis, let's say a financial crisis. And how do you counsel, or how do you advise this leader? What are some of the things, maybe a couple of things, that this person should be focusing on in rallying the troops behind him so that they can give their best and, produce the most that they can?
Well, without going into my teaching for the session, we're gonna be talking effectively about who exactly is a leader. What does it really mean? What does it really mean to lead? Because we need to first define and have an understanding of what leadership is all about. And then we have to also talk about, why should anyone be led by you?
What a critical question.
Why should anyone be led by you? Then how do you derive your power as a leader? Because you need, if you haven't understood what kind of power you exercise or you exert as a leader, and how that power structure and all that leadership style will change because of the current climatic situation, you need to first understand what kind of power that you exert on the people, and how do you derive that power. There are some people who derive the power because of their expertise. Because of their expertise, they have knowledge in a certain specific area, and because you are the only one that is knowledgeable about that, everybody assumes them to be the de facto leader. There are some people who derive their power because they were voted or nominated into a position. They were made the line manager. So they expect that because I have become the line manager, every one of you must listen to what I have to say. So there are people who get into a leadership position because they were nominated or promoted. Then there are people who becomes leader because of the relationship they have built with a group of people. So they don't necessarily have to have a position, but they have a reference power because of key relationship they built, like union leaders, ring leaders. So there are people in organization, that everybody rallies around them. Whatever they say actually can either destroy a company or can build a company. Not because they are the manager, but because they are like that old, in quotes, they are built a relationship with influential people, as the case may be. So when you understand how you have been exercising your leadership power, then you have to think about what kind of tactics are you going to apply now that your traditional leadership power is threatened.
I see.
Then the next thing we probably will be talking about, if time permits, is then to be thinking of how can you emerge from a crisis.
Right. Absolutely.
Because emerging from a crisis will be the objective of the requirement to change your leadership tactics. So how are you going to emerge from the current crisis? Then what can help you? How do you get the team to rally behind you? And then how can you leverage on technology to improve your business outcome or to improve your organizational outcome, especially if you're not a business person? Because at the end of the day, you are not in a business, or you're not working in an organization for charity. You're not doing it to no purpose. You are doing it because you want to achieve an outcome.
That's right.
So how can you better improve your chances of achieving that outcome in the current socioeconomic climate we have found ourselves? So that's what I'm going to be talking about when we do have the session.
Well, thank you very much, Brother Femi. So two things the audience should be expecting. Number one, how does a leader emerge from a crisis?
Yes.
And then number two, how does a leader leverage technology for better results?
Yes.
In the current socioeconomic situation that we are in right now. I
Yes.
personally can't wait to hear those two things, because my businesses have been impacted quite greatly, especially, for example, my corporate training business, which was coming quite against the whole idea of social distancing and self-isolation and everything. So we were quite impacted, because for corporate training to happen at a breakthrough company at which I'm the CEO of, people had to come together. So we've been forced to use, these technological platforms. And as you know, for some reason, Africa, or I don't know whether this is true for East Africa or it's true for every part of Africa, we are always slow in adapting up to new changes. We really do it when we have to, when we have no choice, but rather to do it. So, that has been the situation. Yes. So yeah, I want to thank you very much. And I want to encourage every one of us that are listening in right now, those on Facebook, thank you very much. And I encourage you to join in from tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be an orientation day where we're going to get oriented to the trainers. So Obafemi will be one of the key trainers. Modesta Mahiga from America, she's an executive leadership coach. She'll be talking about personal branding. She will be there. She will have her night. Then we have Mr. Singo from Wongo's Institute, which is an institute for leadership that is being financed by the Tanzanian government as well as the Netherlands government. He will be talking about emotional intelligence for tough times. We'll also have a brother known as Patrick Foyer, who's the HR director from ABSA, Tanzania. He'll be talking about crucial, you probably know, you said you know him, you can remember him.
Yes.
He will be talking about crucial conversations in crisis. How do you have difficult conversations with leaders, or with your teams when the heat is on? And I'll be talking about executive communication in tough times. Then we'll have another trainer from Kenya, Radido Doso. He's part of our team in Kenya. He has written a book called Why Capacity Matters, and he'll be talking about visionary leadership. So I want to encourage every single one of us to attend. I myself cannot wait for the program to begin. It's going to be every evening, 7 to 8:30 sharp on Zoom. So I'm just going to mention a phone number that you can call if you're listening and you're interested in joining. It is 0693 041 409. 0693 041 409. That's the number to dial. And because we are short of time right now, we're not going to be using even emails. Just make a call. We have a few spots left, and then you'll be directed on how to join. Any closing remarks from you, Brother Femi? Anything that, when you remember Tanzania, I know you want to say Asante Sana Nitakuja, but I think you may have something more than just that.
I just want to say that Tanzania is a country of promise. Is a country of great potential. It's by virtue of the size and population of the country, there is nothing stopping the country from being one of the greatest economy in East Africa. That's true. The difference will be the people. Will the people take up that clarion call and make that a reality in their lifetime?
That's right.
And when I'm talking about the people, I'm not talking about, because everybody has a tendency to look at government, but government is an enabler.
That's right.
Government cannot employ everybody.
It is true.
government will have to create an enabling environment for you as an individual to thrive. So the responsibility is on you as an individual. Are you going to create new businesses? Are you going to work within your current organization to make it better so that you're not only talking about earning salaries, right? Because it is okay to sit and earn salary because you assume that the money is going to be there because the owners of the company must provide you salary at the end of the month. But if the business is not generating the income, that means that the owners of those companies will have to go and borrow money from the bank or use money from their own personal pocket to pay you.
Absolutely.
And after a while, if they're not able to pay continually, then they have to lay you off.
That's
so
right, 100% right.
It is in your interest to ensure that that business you are working for survives.
100% right.
So
very true.
It is our responsibility to create a business, sustain a business, but if you are not, it's not everybody that can be an entrepreneur, by the way. It's not everybody that are wired to become an entrepreneur. So we must not force people to become who they are not. So you have to find who you are and live within your own comfort of things that you can wire to do, not trying to be somebody else that you are not. So if you are wired to be an employee, make sure that you do your best so that that company that you're working for survives. Because the company will only be relevant to you if the company continues to exist. If the company dies, then you don't have a job to go back to the next day. So Tanzania is a country that I love so much. I'm still going to come back to Tanzania to do a business in Tanzania, to establish a business in Tanzania. I still feel over the next 5 to 10 years, I still have a lot to contribute to the people of Tanzania. And then I know that these current challenges that the world is going through, it has happened before 100 years ago. And the people at that time got over it and built one of the most advancement in technology and economy that we have ever seen. And it means that our generation can do better than those generations 100 years ago. If at that time they didn't have mobile phone, they didn't have computer, they didn't have internet, they survived the pandemic and went on to create what we are seeing today. The question is, 100 years later, in 100 years' time, the generation of people that will be alive at that time, what will they say about us? Are we going to take this challenge and turn it around to even double what we have achieved in the last 100 years? Or are we going to fold our arms and just give up because things have suddenly collapsed? Africa will become 2.4 billion people by the year 2050.
Wow. Is that double? Almost
Double.
double. It would have doubled in the next 30 years.
In the next 30 years.
Wow. That's
So,
massive growth.
Massive growth. So that means that Africa will have the highest number of people in the world in the year 2050.
Compared to every other continent.
Compared to China, compared to India, compared to all that places.
Compared to any country, so to speak.
Any country. So effectively, so the question is, if you were going to end up with 2.4 billion people, how are we going to feed those people? How are we going to educate those people? How do we create an economy that can provide jobs for those people? What kind of road network do we have to build if the population of Africa is going to double? What kind of transportation infrastructure do we have to build? What kind of educational infrastructure? What kind of digital infrastructure do we have to build? How do we interact with people? What kind of government are we going to have over those periods? What kind of life are the people going to live? In 30 years' time, Most of the people listening to me today will still be alive in 30 years' time by God's grace.
Yeah, yeah.
So the question is, are
How?
we going to still be a continent that depends on importation from China, India, Europe, America to survive? Or are we going to be a net exporter as well, or a balanced trade between our continent and the rest of the world?
Wow.
There was a time where Africa was the cradle of civilization.
Yeah.
Today we are like the dumping ground of the world, and everybody in quotes most of the people look down on Africa, but most of the people that look down on Africa depend on Africa to actually survive. Without Africa, they don't exist.
It's weird. It's bizarre.
Yeah. The food potential of Africa, the land that we have can feed the entire world if we cultivate that land properly. What kind of electricity capacity do we need to build in order to provide electricity for 2.4 billion people? Now, these are questions that we have to start asking ourselves, because the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. Because we have everything that it takes as a continent to be one of the greatest, most technologically advanced continents in the next 100 years. But it starts from what we're going to do in the next 30 years when the population of Africa doubles. You know, the reason why the population will double is because the median age of Africa is about 19 or 20.
Yeah.
So it means that if the median age is about 19 or 20, in 30 years' time, those who are 18 or 20 years old today, they're only going to be 50. And that means they're going to have children as well.
Oh, but Femi, sorry, I think I need to ask a quick question here. Then I'll let you keep going with the line of thinking that you have, and maybe extend this a little bit more. You know, I realize this is the kind of thinking that the people who have changed the world usually engage in. People like Elon Musk, this electric car billionaire, Mark Zuckerberg, and the rest. So without deviating you to go outside of this, and I know you might have something else going on, what do we do to get our people to think big like that, to think about those gigantic problems and how to solve them? And then that may be my last question, and I'll not ask anything else.
Yeah, because I also have to run, right? I think that it starts from understanding that we can do it. We have to believe and have confidence that the solution to our problems lies within us. Because until you start to believe that you can do it, you will not make any move to actually actualize that belief. When we feel that we are inferior or we are not capable, then we will be depending on a third party or somebody else to come and help us, right? It's okay to ask for help, don't get me wrong, but you must ask for help with an understanding that you want to empower yourself, so that when you have empowered yourself, you can continue to do it by yourself. So first, we have to believe that we can do it, because we have done it before. Before streetlights were first existing in Africa, before it existed in Europe, actually. So if we have done it before, we can do it again. But a lot of our generation of Africans do not understand our history. And because we did not understand our history, we feel that most of the advancement in technology or most of the advancements in the world came from outside Africa. It is not true. We contributed as Africans to the development of the world today. So if we did it before, or if our forefathers did it before, then we can do it again. So that whole confidence has to start from within. And personally, for me, when I was growing up as a little child, every time I wasn't so good in mathematics before, but because I summoned courage to believe in myself that I could do it, I developed massive skills in mathematics. And there are some questions in mathematics that they will bring to me that when I look at the questions, I probably don't understand it. But the person who brought the question for me to answer, because the person believes that I can do it, that confidence actually makes me to attempt to do it, to show the person, yes, his belief in me is correct. And I end up doing it. So confidence enhances competence. And when competence has been enhanced, confidence will become reinforced. And that is what I will say. It starts from confidence in ourselves. And when you are confident, then you can seek for the know-how of how to do it. But if you don't even have the confidence that you can do it, you will never attempt to want to try to do it.
Oh, thank you. Words fail me on what to say at this moment in time, but all I could say, thank you very much, Femi. Looking forward to the programs or the online conference themed leadership during and after crisis. We hope to learn a lot. How can people get to follow you, those that are on Facebook and a couple of people here on Zoom? Should they go to Femi?
Instagram. You can send me a message on Instagram.
Femi.
At Femi Bagnibe, it is actually on your flyer, your Instagram flyer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So they can go look for me on Instagram, or look for me on Facebook, or look for me on or Google my name. You will find all my social media handles, and then you can reach out. Yes.
Thank you very much. Asante sana, Femi. Thank you. Looking forward to collaborations. Salimia sana Ghana.
So I can say tutaonana kesho, right?
Tutaonana tena kesho jioni.
All right.
Bye for now, brother. Much love from here. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Good luck and talk to you soon.
Right.
Bye. Cheers. Thanks, everyone. And that was Femi Bagnibe, and that's all for me for now. Good luck and see you soon. Kwaheri.